Computer love. Okay, so I'm not gonna actually perform the entire song, but I was thinking, you know what? We're gonna be talking about something related to that, so I was like, we might as well go with "Computer Love" as the first song of the day. But that doesn't matter. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. It's so good to see all. That's debatable. Sunny. Tuesday afternoon. Today is September 13th, 2022. It is so good to see you all. Just to let you guys know that the Jaybefaunt channel is available on all major podcast platforms like Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can subscribe to me there. I'm also part of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me on the JB Show on Sundays at 1 p.m. on RBN, as well as RBN Live on Tuesdays at 4, and the Savvy and JB Show on Thursdays at 6. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you're new, please make sure take that gorgeous, beautiful appendage, that gorgeous, beautiful appendage, and press down on the like button. You know you don't want to do that. It's absolutely wonderful. I tell you, it's great. It's my favorite color, red. Red like socialist red. And also, please click the link bell if if you can. And if you do, I promise you maybe some cookies, maybe some pie, maybe some tiramisu, or it's the thought that counts, right? Shout out to patrons on Patreon as well as Coffee, and also to the people who are watching on Rockfin, Twitch, and YouTube. So good to see you. But other than all that, I would love to give a warm introduction to a beautiful human being, someone who has been there when I was unknown, who said, "Hey, let's give this fluffy kid a chance. Let's 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 throw him a bone, will you?" And then he said, "Okay." And then he graced my eyes with his beautiful presence. I would like to give it to Mr. Ron Placone,
What's
comedian.
up, man?
Wait, I gotta give it to you. I gotta give you your flowers. Comedian, writer, activist, advocate, commentator, Ron Placone.
What's up, buddy? Thanks for the man. That was a very, very warm intro. For a second, I was like, I don't think he's talking about me. This is way too.
Yes, yeah, man, I am talking about you. Yes, absolutely.
Well, good to see
Duh.
you, buddy. Always a pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Oh man, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks for coming from my tiny little channel. I appreciate it so much.
Of course, man. I didn't realize, like we were talking about off mic. I mean, we've done stuff together before. I didn't realize that technically this is the first time I'm on your specific channel. So honored to be here, man. I'm
Yeah,
stoked.
yeah, definitely. And yes, you are underrated.
It's very kind to say.
And
Thank you
yeah,
very
and
much.
I'm gonna say
Thank you,
it. I'm gonna
Moses.
say it. So, one of the things that I typically do on this channel is, and like I told you before, I try to make this almost like the inside the actor's studio for independent media, right? But at the same time, talk about some of the things that we're championing or some of the things that are close to our hearts. And so that's some of the things that I wanted to get into here. Um, Now, people, you really don't need much of an introduction anymore because they've seen our interactions together. Um, but I'm trying to ask the question of like, what got you into comedy and then largely into this activist and commentator space, or was it the reverse? Were you more of an activist and commentator, but then got into comedy? How did the order go, and how did you get into it?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I was really like anything, but I was really into like politics before I was into comedy. Like I was, when I was in college, so I guess technically I don't know if I would say I was an activist necessarily, but like I showed up to like Iraq war protests every week on campus protesting the war, and I met
Mm.
some like, activisty groups, and I was doing stuff with some anti-war groups on campus, and I was also heavily involved in like community radio. I really liked community radio. I still do. It's just not. I mean, even though the internet was still a pretty big thing even then, and radio was still a dated medium even then, it's even more of a dated medium now. So so I was really into all that when I was in college, and then it wasn't
Got it.
until like pretty much like towards the end of college that I like tried stand up for the first time. So, I
Mm.
mean, I was always trying to weave politics into my comedy because it was just something that was interesting to me and something that was like important to me. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, technically it would have been the other way around. It was like I was into politics and then I started doing comedy. And then, I mean, I was a road comic, which basically just means you're traveling around venue to venue doing stand up. I mean, I did that for a decent number of years. I lived in my car for a little bit doing it because I was just traveling
Oh,
so much. And then eventually wound up in LA, and and things kind of happened from there.
I got you. So basically, you went to college, you discovered that the emperor has no clothes, and so you started to think, man, I can make a business out of this, and start making fun of the emperor having no clothes.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, I was pretty apolitical in high school. Like, I didn't have any political opinions. I didn't even really know anything about it, really. I mean, other than like some things. Like, I did have some kind of subversive tendencies. Like I was the kid that never stood for the Pledge of Allegiance, just because I thought it was, I just thought it was like ridiculous. And one time, like a teacher confronted me about it, and I just said, I'm an anarchist, which I didn't even really understand what an anarchist was. I
Wow.
just
Okay.
listened to a lot of punk rock music, and I just didn't care. I thought it was like kind of groupthink and stuff like that. So I had some opinions and I had some thoughts, but they weren't necessarily well fleshed out or
Mm.
thorough by any means. And a lot of it was just because of music I listened to or whatever else. And then in college, for me, I mean, I was in college around the same time Iraq was really ramping up. And I was, I guess a little older, comparatively speaking. And I was wondering, like, wait a second, why are we over there? Why are we in Iraq? This doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And so then I started getting introduced to things like Noam Chomsky, and I saw the documentary Outfox, and I started just digging a little deeper, and I really changed a lot. Like I really, really changed a
Mhm.
lot within like that first like 6 months. I got home from like the first semester. I came home for like winter break, and the stuff I was saying, like my family and people around me, they were like, "Holy shit, he's like into politics now." I mean,
Wow.
so that's why the new, like the young generations really fascinate me a lot. Because first of all, I think the Zoomers are kicking ass at taking names. I think they're awesome. Um,
Yeah, they are.
and um, and I think it's just so interesting to me because I think for so many of us, and yeah, some people they're just paying attention very young because like maybe their parents were and that rubbed off on them or whatever. But I think a
Yeah.
lot of other people, it's like usually something in the world happens that wakes you up.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this generation of young people, every day that's happening. You know what I mean? Like every day there's something right in their face that's like, hey, the
Yeah.
world is messed up. So I
Yeah.
can only imagine, I mean, what happened to me in college. I mean, that happens to young people every day, but I feel
Hmm.
like it has to be happening at such a faster pace now because of what's happening in the world. Like it just has to be where like kids are waking
Yeah.
up constantly because they have no choice really.
Hmm. Well, you know what, and it's interesting that you put it that way because when I uh, when I was in my senior year, that's when 9/11 happened, right?
Okay.
And so I spoke about this on RBN on Sunday because that was the anniversary of 9/11. the 21st anniversary. It's crazy that it's been
So
21 years since
we're
that.
pretty much the same age.
Yeah, I just turned 38 in June.
Okay, so I'm
Yep.
I'm 37. So
Okay.
we're basically, yeah, because I was, I think, a junior when
Hmm.
9/11. Yeah. All right. Oh, all right.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
realize that. I didn't realize.
yeah,
I didn't know how old you were.
you're a whippersnapper. So,
Yeah.
but when it comes to when that happened, uh, that was a big thing for a lot of us in our generation, right? For a lot of us millennials,
Yeah.
seeing that on screen was really our dive into propaganda as the people who were being prop, what's the right word,
Propagandized.
propagandized too. But then a lot of us started seeing there was something just not right in the system. Something
Right.
didn't seem just right.
Yeah.
So then a lot of us started reading, and a lot of us started looking objectively at outside sources that weren't being held up by the empire, so to speak. And so a lot of us were like, wait a minute. Because a lot of us, our parents are boomers. Some of us, our parents may have been Gen Xers. And so, we kind of come out of that like okay, so I was raised very religious, but in that we were also taught not to be too trusting of the government because there's some protections that they wouldn't afford people in the organization I was in. And so because of that, then I didn't have as much trust in the government. It wasn't a blind trust, right? So for me, it was just like something's not right. And so you kind of see that, and next thing you know, once you start hearing about other things, especially how corporations and the government are really in cahoots with each other, then you start to just look at
Yeah.
things, in a different way. So, yeah.
Totally. I mean, and it really is a loss of innocence. I mean, when 9/11 happened, I was like really upset and concerned,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I guess we have to do something, and whatever our government decides to do is probably the right thing to do, right? Aren't we the good guys? And
Yeah.
I found out how wrong that was. And
Mm.
I mean, it is a loss of innocence. I mean, you're taught that the U.S. is like the good guy in the world, and they're just trying to make the world a better place. Then you realize the opposite is true. Like the complete opposite is true. We're the worst actor on the world stage. That's not
Yeah.
to say we're the only bad guy, but we are. I would argue the worst.
Yeah.
And it's a hard pill to swallow. But once you're kind of jolted awake, like that doesn't. You just keep getting more and more awake to certain things. Like it's like, okay, I'm awake to what the empire is really all about, but
Hmm.
I feel like the Democratic Party is a more incremental way of building the type of world I want to build, right? Oh wait,
Yeah.
that's not true either. What do I have? I have nothing. I mean, because I used to think that, to be honest. I mean, once I had like I didn't have one of these things where it's like I used to be a Republican and now I'm I went from being just pretty much apolitical to not having any views whatsoever to being a pretty big lefty, but I still didn't really have like a structural awareness of what that meant and where that fit
Mhm.
in the United States. I mean, I did a little bit because I was just like, well, I don't think many people really see the world this way in the United States, especially compared to other countries, because I went over, I mean, another big awakening for me was when I went to Italy for the first time. And I kind of, like a lot of my family, they would say things like, why do you guys live the way you do in America? I'm like, that's a damn good question. Why do we work this freaking hard? Why do we why don't we have healthcare? They have healthcare here. Why don't we have that? That's so effed up, and then like you'd be told things like, oh, well, they have healthcare, but it's pretty, I mean, you don't want to, it's not great though. It's not what we have here because we have profit healthcare here. It's better because of that. That's what you're taught in the US. Then I went over to Italy and first of all, like that's bullshit. That's all bullshit, obviously. But
Mhm.
also, I got to experience that firsthand as somebody who didn't know better. I got a sunburn when I was over in Italy. I know you're probably shocked that happened to me. With that complexion, Ron, never would have thought. But I got a bad sunburn, right? I fell asleep on the beach, and I wasn't. I mean, yeah, I've been there, man.
I got you.
And so I got a pretty bad sunburn. I wanted to get like some kind of cream for it, right? So I go into the pharmacy. Now the pharmacies over in Italy and a lot of other European countries, they're a little more involved than the pharmacies here in the United States, where it's just like a place where like, oh, they sell medicine and like random groceries and stuff. It has all that. I don't think they have groceries actually, but nonetheless, they sell medicine and stuff like that. But they also have like it's kind of more like pharmacies over there. It's like a little more of like a Med Express meets a pharmacy, and that's just a regular pharmacy over there, if that makes sense. Like they have doctors and stuff a lot of the time. So I go in there and I say, "Hold and Scoltatore, I have a sunburn." And the woman there takes me into the office, like the doctor's office, basically. And the doctor looks at me and he tells me what level of burn that I have. He advises me to maybe be more careful in the sun, which, and he spoke, it's funny, he spoke English. And then when he asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I'm a college student, I'm trying to get good at Italian. So he spoke Italian to me, and then he would speak English, and he taught me. So he not only did his job as a doctor, but he also gave me an Italian lesson.
Nice.
He didn't have to do any of that. He could have just been like, I'm just going to speak English because I don't have time. Your Italian's not strong enough to understand everything. So he gave me 2 creams. One was for the burn itself to heal the burn, and the other one was for the discomfort of like an aloe vera type thing, basically.
Nice.
to soothe the burn. And I'm walking out and I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna cost me an arm and a leg. I'm probably gonna have to ask my parents to loan me some cash because I probably I was a college kid, right, studying abroad. I get to the checkout and I think the whole thing cost €2. And the only reason it cost that much was because I wasn't a resident. I think for like a resident, that all just would have been free. I mean, not, I don't think all medicine is like totally free, but these like just basic sunburn cream, that just would have been probably free. And seeing the doctor spending time with me, that was free. Meanwhile, like here to like walk in the door of a Med Express is like $100 to like breathe inside of one of those places. I mean, so it was a really, and I'm like, oh, this is the universal healthcare that's apparently not good. Tell me more about that's the treatment I got as a foreigner with a freaking sunburn. And I posted about this on my Facebook one time. This was years ago. I just posted about it. And I'm like, this is the type of treatment I got as a foreigner with a freaking sunburn. I can only imagine what they would do with someone who had an actual problem and wasn't just a goofball that fell asleep in the sun when they're like, as pasty as a piece of chalk. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, I can only imagine what that's like. And so people left a bunch of stories where they talked about, oh, I fell and broke my arm in Ireland and this happened. And they were just saying how amazed they were at the efficiency and the level of care and the cheap cost of healthcare over there. And these are as foreign people, as people who are not natives of that country. Still, the treatment that they got, is better than what we get here. And I mean, that's why you have things like medical tourism and dental tourism in the United States, where people will literally go to other countries for care. And so that was something else that opened my eyes big time, man. And when I came back, I was a huge advocate for like single payer healthcare and stuff.
Wow.
And so by like 2008, I eventually voted for Obama, but I wasn't thrilled about it. I was a big Dennis Kucinich guy because Dennis Kucinich was for single payer and Barack Obama wasn't. And Dennis Kucinich was a big non-interventionist. Barack Obama really wasn't. Like, I knew the only non-interventionist on that stage was Dennis Kucinich and Mike Gravel and then Ron Paul. Like I knew that, and I knew that. Well, politically, I agree with Dennis Kucinich and Mike Gravel a hell of a lot more than I agree with Ron Paul. But so in '08, I was like not thrilled with, like, I wasn't one of these like, oh my god, Obama's going to be our FDR. I was never that guy. I did vote for him.
Gotcha.
And I was like Obama, but I remember saying to my girlfriend at the time after I voted for Obama, I'm just like, I guess he's the centrist we need, like that was what I thought. So, and that's why, like, whenever Obama comes up, I'm just like, look, I'm one of those people who had timid expectations, and he still didn't even meet my expectations.
Never.
I thought he was going to be a bridge to a more leftward direction. I really did think that, because, again, even though he wasn't my first choice, I still liked the guy, and I still thought he was going to be the real deal and was going to govern, a pretty fair hand and deliver on his promises. He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that.
Yeah.
We don't need to go. So it's like, I feel like we're walking through all these, all these levels of loss of innocence, like all these, loss of innocence, where there was just like one,
Yeah. It's kind of like when you're growing up and you look at your parents in a certain light, and you're like, man, they're wonderful. Well, okay, I'll put it this way. For me growing up, I'll put it that way, because not every kid has the same experience. But for somebody like me growing up, it was just like it's like you kind of know your parents are imperfect, but you don't get the extent of how imperfect they are. It's almost like to you they're damn near perfect, right? Until you become a teenager and then you turn into adult. And then it's like, oh.
Yeah, you realize they're human.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I mean to.
No, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, like that's like a really awesome analogy. Like, the only thing is, I wish I had the same level of, like, love and acceptance for my government as I do for my parents. Like, and granted, I'm luckier than a lot of people because my parents are good people and I'm close to them. But it's like, yeah, there is a certain loss of innocence when you realize your parents don't walk on water. Totally. But, like, for me, that lesson was just like, yeah, my parents are human, just like everyone else. My dad makes mistakes. My mom makes mistakes. And guess what? I'm going to make mistakes. That's part of being human, and that's cool. But I feel like with the government, it was a more severe loss of innocence than that, because it was just like, oh, wait. Yeah, this isn't some imperfect structure. This is an absolutely corrupt, horrific structure. I feel like to make that parallel, it would be like it's not discovering your parents aren't perfect. It's discovering your parents are serial killers.
Yeah, I was about to get into that, but you beat me to the punch. But I was about to get to that. And you're absolutely right. It's just like, you know how you get those stories of, a little boy or a little girl, and they grow up and they have a great relationship with their parents, and then they find out that their parents stole them at birth from their actual parents. And it's like, wait, you're a kidnapper? You stole me? Yeah. It's like, what? It's like, what other things were you hiding? And you thought that, and here's where we're taught as little kids. We're taught that, and as a young black kid growing up in the United States, of course, we're taught about slavery. But it's kind of cushioned a little bit, unless you go to a predominantly black school like I did, really? Where some of the black teachers were like, hey. Look, it was bad. All right. Don't believe what they say. Don't believe the hype.
Well, are you from Florida originally?
No, I'm actually originally from New Jersey, but I lived most of my life here in Florida.
Okay. Well, were you in school in New Jersey then, or where were you?
No, I came down here before I ever attended school ever. So all of my education was here in Florida.
One thing that, I mean, that's, again, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and we were certainly not. I mean, yeah, we're definitely taught the whitewashed version of history, like pretty much everyone. But I think there are varying degrees of that because I have cousins who grew up in South Carolina,
Hmm.
and because my uncle was a professor down there,
Hmm.
and what they were taught about slavery was a lot different than what I was taught about
Hmm.
slavery. Not in, like I was taught a more honest version of it than they were. Like they were taught that, well, it wasn't really as bad as people make it out to be. And it was just sort of a thing. And it wasn't really a big deal. Um, I mean, probably not quite at that level, but like there was a lot of apologia going on.
Of
Whereas
course.
what I was taught was more like, yes, it was terrible, but only the bad guys did it. Where it's like they
Hmm.
sort of glossed over the fact that it's like George Washington had slaves, and you know what I mean. So there was sort of there was still an apologia, but there were a couple levels more, going on in the experience that my family in the South had. I can't. I'm not saying that speaks for everywhere in the South. I have no clue, but like that's just one personal experience. But
Yeah, I think one thing that I can be grateful for is that uh let me see. Let me see. Kindergarten, first grade. For the most part, up until fifth grade, I went to a predominantly black school.
mhm,
Then in my fifth grade year, I went to a more evenly mixed school where it was evenly mixed between black, Latino, white, not too many Asians still. I do remember a classmate I had, his name was Long Lee. For some reason, 28 years later, I still remember that name. But Long
that's
Lee, if you're out
that's a
there, I
memorable
remember your
one.
name.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's a
Yeah.
memorable one. I like it.
Yeah, but it's a cool name because it's so easy to remember. It's like Long Lee. Okay, cool. Um, but I think that was one of the things that I'm grateful for is that because I went to a predominantly black school with a lot of black teachers, they said, "Yeah, no, we're going to cover, slavery the way it actually happened."
Right.
Um, they can only do so much though because you got the school system on you. They have to go according to the curriculum, so they can only go so as far. But they made sure to push, things about African American history, to us that you wouldn't really get taught too much in the more affluent schools within the same city or same county. So that was something that I was grateful for. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there always are those like sort of diamonds in the rough when it comes to just education in general. I think throughout the entire country. I mean, my wife grew up in Massachusetts, and
Hmm.
middle class family, but she grew up in the Cape Cod area, where it's like you have a lot of just working class people who live there year round, and then a lot of tourists who come in for the summer who have a lot of money, and then
Hmm.
some people who have a lot of money who do just kind of stay there. And because it's the state of Massachusetts, the public schools were, I guess, funded pretty well comparatively speaking. And I remember she told me like she got to be part of like this history class where they like legit taught Howard Zinn. Like they taught people's history of the United States, like her junior year of high school.
Wow.
So she was a
Wow.
lot more like emotionally, I don't know if emotionally is the right way to put it, but she was a lot more like it's funny when we talk about our responses to 9/11. I mean, you brought up 9/11. My
Hmm.
response to it was a lot more, a lot less intellectually developed than hers was. She had an entirely different response. I mean, we didn't know each other back then, but but it's like
Of
like
course.
we've talked about it, and it's like she was kind of like, this is what we do in other countries all the time. She's like, I'm not saying this is good, this is terrible, what just happened, but we do this to other countries constantly, and this whole war on terror thing is bullshit. Like she was already there, when she was
Oh,
in, because she got to have those types of classes and stuff. So
wow. Wow. She sounds based.
she's cool. Yeah, I like her. I mean, I married her, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I need to meet Mrs. Placone. So she sounds like a really cool lady. So,
She's a very
um,
cool lady, and she does not go by Mrs. Placone. She'd be mad if I didn't point that out. But yes, she's very very cool.
okay, the lady that is married to Ron
The
Placone.
lady that is married to me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the one that said yes.
The one that said yes. Yeah, no, that was like a very. I know that's sort of a thing that sometimes can cause tension.
Mhm.
And, we talked about it very briefly. And I'm like, if you want to take my last name, you can. If you don't, don't. I don't care at all. It is totally your, like, why would I? I
Yeah,
have no say in that, nor should I. And she's like, honestly, I just don't want to fill out all the paperwork. And I'm like, paperwork sucks. Fuck it.
yeah,
Like it's like, I know
yeah,
some people, they're still very kind of, I guess maybe old fashioned is the diplomatic proper way to put it, but
yeah,
who gives a shit? I mean,
yeah.
she said like maybe we should revisit it if we ever decide on kids. So there's like a unison last name for the kid, but
Hmm.
as of right now, we haven't decided a yay vote on kids, and I think we're leaning towards no. We're probably not going to have them. So,
That's
I mean,
cool.
who knows? In a couple years, that might change. We might decide we
Maybe,
really
maybe
want.
not.
Maybe, maybe not, dude. I mean, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're solid, maybe, and I think we're leaning more towards no. But once we decide for sure, I'm gonna get the old snippety snip. I think it's,
Mhm.
I'm a
Gotcha.
gentleman.
Of course. And the thing is, I mean, I don't want to veer too far because I want to get to my next question. But I mean, the whole taking of last name is sort of antiquated, you know,
Yeah, it's
and it's like,
whatever. It's
and,
like,
and, and plus, I mean, I'm gay, and my boyfriend, if we were to ever get married, I would probably, just for ease of having to pronounce last names, I would probably want to take his last name instead because I'm just like, I
yeah.
don't want to have to make you have to correct every single time that somebody needs to say Fauntleroy. Like, what? What? It's too much work.
I mean, hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's
Yeah.
totally. I mean, hey, I have another friend. Her last name was Seaman, and so when she got married, she's like, "Yep, taking your name, filling out that paper," and that's fine. It's like that's totally fine. Like I don't think.
Oh,
I don't
poor.
think anyone should be judged for it one way or another, whatever they decide to do. I think if a man decides to take the woman's name, that's
Mhm.
fine in a,
Yeah.
like in a man-woman marriage or whatever. I mean, I think two people should be able to do whatever they want to do. And I think
Yeah.
if you want to get married, because then other people, like they kind of just bash the idea of marriage in general. And it's like, why do you need a piece of paper and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't need a piece of paper. It's just something that my now wife and I decided we wanted to do. And so you make it special to you. It's not the piece of paper that makes it special. It's what it means to you. And if you want that,
Exactly.
that's fine. If you don't want that, that's fine too. I know people, they've been together for 20, 30 years. They're not married because they choose not to get married. They don't want to get married. That's totally cool. Other people wanted to. That's fine. Whatever you want to do with names, who cares? I mean, well, like not who cares, like, well, fuck you, but who cares? Like, hey, that's your business. Whatever makes you happy is cool with me. Like
Hmm. Yeah. What makes you happy? Sorry.
exactly.
Sorry, I'm not gonna make your ears bleed with my horrible singing. I'm not gonna do that. I'm
You have a
sorry.
beautiful voice, my friend. Nobody disputes your beautiful voice, be it singing or otherwise.
The jury's still out on that one, Ron.
Who? If anyone has a problem with your voice, they're just wrong. I mean, there's
Thank
no.
you.
I mean, some things are really that simple. I mean,
Mm,
you've got a very
yeah.
smooth, soothing voice.
Thank you,
I
brother.
have a more grating voice. I can see how some people like don't like they're not a fan of my voice, but that's just. I mean, this is just what I got. I'm sorry, but yours is. There's no disputing. You got a beautiful voice.
No, no, you give great conversation, and that's the part of the appeal that I absolutely enjoy, and so I appreciate it. But I do want to get to my core question that I the conversation is too good. We just flow, man. Like, it's great.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, back at you. It's fun.
Yeah. What the hell is antitrust summer?
Oh, antitrust summer is a beautiful thing. So there's a couple things going on. I'll get to like the main core of antitrust summer first. So
Mm-hmm.
there's two bills floating around in Congress, and they
Mm-hmm.
are two pieces of antitrust legislation. One of them was written by Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley, which I will be honest up front. Amy Klobuchar has definitely had some misses on tech policy before.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't one of them, though. This is a good bill. It is a good antitrust bill, and what it does is it stops Amazon and Google from prioritizing their own content over other content. See what
Got it.
Amazon and Google does. Like we'll use Google as an example first. When you
Mm-hmm.
search something on Google, you
Mm-hmm.
will get pages of results. That is all Google's own results. They do what is called data scraping from other pages and they
Mm-hmm.
package it as their own. So, what that does is it stops other websites from getting traffic, which could hurt their ability to sustain themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This is not okay to do. It should be illegal. Technically, they're stealing. But right now, there's not a lot we can do about it. This antitrust bill breaks that up. It stops them from doing that. Over at Amazon, what Amazon will do is they will harvest your data, which they shouldn't be able to do that automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And then they
Mm-hmm.
will use that data to push generic products at you that they make. And they will also list their generics over other products. So, say you're looking for like a designer bag or something like that. You're
Mm-hmm.
likely not going to find that actual designer until the third page. What you are going to get is 2 to 3 pages of Amazon's generics. Oh, and how do they know what generics to make? They harvest people's data to know what people want to buy. So they're
Oh.
basically just crippling any other online vendors. So those antitrust bills, and then the other antitrust bills has to do with apps, and it allows third party and alternative apps to work on people's phones, and it stops the high commission rates that organizations like Apple charge independent apps.
Mm-hmm.
So this is some good antitrust legislation. It's the best antitrust legislation we've seen in over 40 years in this country. And these bills have a lot of bipartisan support, which usually bipartisan support means that the Republicans have a really bad idea and the Democrats are happy to help them sell it, or vice versa. In this case, though, it's actually a good bipartisan thing because it means that whether you are on the right, on the left, or in between, a lot of us know that big tech is BS, that big tech is doing all kinds of terrible things, and that just this needs to be broken up. So this is
Mm-hmm.
good bipartisan in a good way legislation. That is a huge, huge step in a better direction in breaking up big tech. These bills do have the votes to pass, according to multiple reports from Reuters, according to Amy Klobuchar. Here's the stipulation: Chuck Schumer has to bring these bills to a vote. Chuck
Yeah.
Schumer has a daughter who lobbies for Amazon and another daughter who lobbies for Meta, which is Facebook. Guess who's against these bills? Big tech. In fact, they've spent $95 million and counting trying to kill these bills. So Chuck Schumer promised to vote in June. Now he promised to vote in the fall. The clock is ticking, and there's a good chance if we wait until after the midterms, this bill ain't going to get a vote. Although Amy Klobuchar has said she's still confident it could because there's enough Republican support for this bill. So you can go to antitrustsummer.com and you can sign to help support these bills. Now, what's going on in the world at large that really makes these bills especially important? Well, Amazon recently had some of their most dangerous mergers yet. First of all, they merged with iRobot, which is the company that makes the cameras in Roombas. So basically, Amazon, they do all that data harvesting I just mentioned. Now they're going to be able to see exactly what's in your frickin' house. Isn't that great? We're living in Wall-E, folks. But here's the more dangerous merger, Jay. They just merged with One Medical. What's One Medical? Well, that's a healthcare company that specializes heavily in telehealth. Membership started about $199 a year. So why do you think Amazon is getting involved with healthcare? Well, what did Amazon do with Amazon.com at the beginning? They tried to sell books online and they operated at a loss as long as they needed to until they monopolize the market. Amazon is now responsible for over half of all online commerce. Jeff
Mm-hmm.
Bezos is going to try to do the same thing in healthcare. He has
Mm-hmm.
unlimited cash. He's going to operate One Medical at a loss for as long as he needs to until he monopolizes our predatory healthcare system. Our healthcare system is already the most predatory in the frickin' world. You know what would somehow make it even worse? If Jeff Bezos had a frickin' monopoly on it. This is the guy that allows his workers to pass out from heat exhaustion. In fact, in New Jersey, your old homeland, 3
Yeah.
workers died in July. They died because of warehouse conditions. You want this psychopath monopolizing your healthcare? What do you think he's going to do if he has healthcare monopolized and he gets to decide what medicine you can and can't get? What medicine insurance does or doesn't give you? What do you think's going to happen? That is going to be dystopian on a level that even our predatory system can't imagine. So we got to start breaking this stuff up for the good of our freaking humanity, right? I mean, so a good way to start, antitrustsummer.com. It takes less than 40 seconds to sign this petition. We need to keep the pressure on them because guess what? These politicians, they don't want to do something that would piss off their big tech lobbyists. We know this. But you know what else they don't want? They don't want to lose their jobs. So if we're so freaking loud that they can't ignore us, they're going to pass these bills. So please, antitrustsummer.com, be so loud they can't freaking ignore us. Please.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
What's going on? And that's the thing, just to say one last thing on this, one of the things that I'm really is part of my personal mission, because people who know me, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers may already know this about me, I'm a huge proponent for digital rights. I'm a big net neutrality guy. I'm a big municipal broadband guy. One of the reasons I am that way is not just because, they're important issues that are interesting to me, but also because I see the connection, no pun intended, between digital rights and labor rights. We just went over some of that, between digital rights and climate change. Look, in our global village, we need everyone to have strong internet, and that's especially important when it comes to climate because that gets more cars off the road. So, I see connections between digital rights. I see the connections between digital rights and war and peace, because without an information superhighway like the internet, how are we going to get the truth about what's really going on in the Middle East, what's really going on in Russia, in Ukraine? And you get the idea. So it's like we need a strong, free, and open internet. So, I see the connection between digital rights and all these other issues.
Well, just to add on to that, I mean, look, and this, I put the link in the chat for everybody, but
Thank you.
I want to hammer this home. Those of us who are really doing what you and I do, as well as those of us who may not be in the commentator space or in the media space, but who are trying to do activism or doing communications in order to uplift our areas, the neighborhoods, and different causes. We use the internet in order to be able to do this.
Right.
Look what happened to the African People's Socialist Party a few weeks ago, the week before the FBI raid on Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. They infiltrated the African People's Socialist Party. And the thing is that what were they doing? They were actually organizing to do many different things for their community. And then next thing you know, because you have a lot of these companies that are monopolies, and then they employ people from the national security state even into their companies, they're able to use those apparatuses to really hamper down on those of us who are really trying to uplift the poor and the workers. So really, it behooves us to want to break up these companies because that's what's going on. And in fact, I was talking to Z from the People's Voice Network, as well as my boyfriend. They're gamers, and another friend, Sean, my friend Sean, who's also a gamer too. They were talking about how Activision Blizzard is about to be bought up. It might be bought up by Microsoft, meaning that the monopoly, even in the gaming industry, which I kind of link with big tech, is also going to be taking that over. And so then you guys start thinking about, well, not just the quality of things, like for instance, our internet and things like that, but what about the people who work in these industries? You know, if that's the only game in town, then workers won't be treated as well. They won't be able to unionize because it's like, well, where are you going to go? You can't, you know. So it's really just a means of making sure that the people have the power instead of these big, corporate conglomerates having power. And linked into embedded, I should say, into the antitrust summer website was an episode from last week tonight with John Oliver when he was talking about how AT&T used to be a big, giant.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
and that's a brilliant segment. I mean, I definitely don't agree with every single take John Oliver has, but his stuff on digital rights, he usually gets that very, very good. Like his net neutrality segment was awesome, and his antitrust segment is awesome. And yeah, he talks about how when AT&T was broken up, which that's when I'm saying this is the best antitrust legislation we've had in over 40 years. That's the 40 years I'm referring to. AT&T was broken up in the 80s. And when they were broken up, I mean, they used to have a dictatorship pretty much on our phone lines. And what happened when they got broken up, I mean, and I'm sure, again, you and I as elder millennials, we're old enough to remember when a long distance phone call cost an arm and a leg.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you remember like your parents would have the stopwatch on when you were on a long distance call with someone in the family, like you got 60 seconds, go, because it was so freaking expensive. Yeah. And then now no one can imagine what that was. Well, people can't imagine a landline even, but you get the idea that they can't imagine that being the case. And it's because AT&T had this monopoly. So when they broke up AT&T, all of a sudden long distance calling became way more affordable. We got inventions like the answering machine. We got inventions like the modem, which helped build the internet as we know it today.
Yeah.
So the truth is like without antitrust legislation, we don't even know the potential that the internet has. We don't even know what we could be missing beyond Google, beyond YouTube, beyond Facebook, beyond Amazon, because right now we're kind of being stifled down. I mean, right now we're in the AT&T zone, like we're in the AT&T in the 80s zone where we can't imagine a long distance phone call not costing an arm and a leg and the blood of your firstborn. Now we know how ridiculous that was. Well, I want to help build an internet that is a invaluable tool and a super information highway that has limitless potential. I don't want it to continue to descend into the capitalist surveillance hellscape that it's like starting to go towards. So, again, antitrustsummer.com. And, you mentioned the mergers. We have an FTC in this country. They're supposed to kind of enforce this stuff, except when it comes to Time Warner and when it comes to Discovery and HBO and when it comes to Amazon and iRobot / One Medical. Time and time again, they seem to be sleeping at the wheel. So, we really do got to fight for policies that start breaking this up. And it's up to us to do it because the government doesn't want to do it. We have to make them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We have to make them do it. That was great. Thank you so very much. Basically do what I guess there was the reputation of Teddy Roosevelt back then because he was called the Trust Buster.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the interesting thing too. Like, the AT&T bust happened under Reagan. So, I mean, you can still get good policy through even if the people that are like at the top aren't so great. Like, because some people, they're just like, well, Chuck Schumer's so terrible. It's just like, yeah, he is terrible. So let's make him do something he doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to do this, but if he doesn't have a choice, he's going to do it. So, it's one of those things where it's like, you can still get good antitrust policy through, even if like the powers that be are not ideal. Because guess what? The powers that be are never going to be ideal. If you're going to wait until you love who's controlling the Senate to fight for policy that's worth fighting for, you're going to be waiting forever. Because like what? Mitch McConnell, that was your guy. Chuck Schumer, he's great. none of them are great. You know, like
Yeah, yeah. You gotta scare them.
you got to scare them. I mean,
You gotta
that's the
scare
way
them.
it works. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I feel you.
and, and then if we make a threat, then we have to follow through. It's like, yeah, okay, so we're gonna protest at your house then. you know,
Yeah, and
you know.
you're gonna lose your job. I mean, really, like it's FDR didn't give us the New Deal because he was a nice guy who just felt like giving doing that. He gave us the New Deal because he looked outside and he knew he didn't have a freaking choice. He knew
Mhm,
that the socialists and the communists and the anarchists and the working class and the unions, everybody was pretty united, and they were saying we're not going to take it anymore. So he
mhm,
told his rich friends, "You can either give up a little bit or everything. Your choice." And
mhm,
we got the New Deal. So, I mean,
mhm,
that's just how change works in this country. That's how change works in any empire, really. Whenever you have a straight up oligarchy and a straight
mhm,
up plutocracy where the rich call all the shots, which is what we live under. People
mhm,
could sugarcoat it or put a bow on it if they want to, but I don't, and you don't.
mhm.
Like, so you gotta just, fight back with what little you have, which is your
Mhm.
labor. And,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, definitely. I do have a couple questions. If you have time, I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
take
Shout
too
out a few
much.
more.
Okay, all right. So this one, uh, I think I'm not sure. Have I ever asked you this? I don't know. I still want to ask you though, just in case. But um, this is a hypothetical question. So you are president of the United States. You're President Placone, right? It's January
God
20th.
help
You're
you all.
Oh yes, yes, yes. God help us because we are going to party like it's 1999. Chandeliers will never be the same again. Anyway, but what are your first? Gosh, I'm so stupid. Why the hell people watch this show? Oh goodness. What are your first three actions you're taking as president within your first 100 days?
Oh man, you gave me three, so that's
Ah,
nice.
yeah.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to end all the wars immediately, and
Mhm,
I'm going to stop our aggressive actions all around the world. And I'm going to try to get a basically a worldwide truce on just trying to be stewards to the earth and make
mhm,
that be, like the world pursuit instead of endless war for oil. So to help that along, my second thing is I'm going to enact a true Green New Deal, not the co-opted one, but a true eco-socialist Green New Deal that is going to heavily invest on getting off of fossil fuels entirely.
mhm,
As soon as absolute possible. It's not going to be like by 2035 we'll all have a car that you charge. No, no, no. We're done with fossil fuels. It's over. So this is going to include, excuse me, an extensive rail that goes all over the country. This
mhm,
is going to include some of the type of power grid islands, like what they're building in Denmark, that will have the power to, generate enough energy for millions of homes, and it's completely, solar and renewables. So we're going to really make a huge investment there. The third thing I would do, Medicare for all. We're getting universal health care. And then from there to tag on to that Green New Deal, that Green New Deal is going to include quality, real municipal broadband all around the country, which we could pay for many times over. So yeah, so that Green New Deal is going to have a lot of stuff. Some of it's not even going to be, some of it goes beyond stuff that's in the real one now. So those would be the
got
three
it.
things I would do.
Nice. I appreciate that. That's a pretty good list. Um, so what is something that you plan on doubling down on this year and going into next year?
Well, be a little more specific. Like, do you mean like a creative project, or do you mean like a policy I'm passionate about, or do you mean like
Mhm.
what exactly do you mean doubling down on?
Yeah, my apologies. I can clarify. So, a lot of times people typically have, resolutions for a new year, things
Okay.
they're going to change, things that they're going to improve on. But I want to know what you're going to stick to and what you're going to double down on.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. All right.
so that's what I mean. It's like no, I'm not going to change this. I'm doubling down because this needs to be talked about or this needs to be done.
Well, well, I mean, as far as things that need to be done, but I gotta finish my freaking movie. I've been working on a movie. It is a long, I think a lot of people, like, they didn't realize how long making a movie takes in most cases. Because,
Yeah.
like, I've gotten I'm no, at the moment, I'm not actively seeking funding for it because I
Mhm.
was, and like a bunch of people, like, they would, not a bunch, but like some people they would give. And then a couple months later, they were just like, "Where's this movie? You lied to us." And I'm like, it takes a long time. Like, it's like, you thought
Hold
this was going
on.
to be done in a couple months?
Yeah.
This isn't a podcast. It's a freaking movie. Like,
Yeah.
um, so right now, I mean, I have some money to start. So I'm going to start, see how far I get, and then try to raise the rest, however much that's going to be. So I really need to, up the ante on getting this movie made. It's just not, team building is incredibly hard. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be until I had to do it. Um, because especially here in LA, dude, because like you would think, well, there's so many filmmakers and stuff in LA, it's got to be easier, right? Surprisingly, no, because in other cities like Orlando or wherever else, the filmmaking scene is a little bit more of a community. Here, it's a little bit more of, I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm wondering how this will help me in the long run, and I'm wondering who your network consists of. It's very much Hollywood. I think when I say it's very Hollywood, people know what that means, even if they've never spent time in Hollywood per se. So I'll just go with that. It's very Hollywood here. And it's very like, it's hard to find the right person where it's like, do I want to be making a film with you where we're going to be on set together 12 hours a day? Are you genuinely interested in this project, or are you just trying to like get a quick IMDb credit, or you know what I mean? Like it's like there's so much, and I've worked with people on other projects where I've realized like, okay, I just can't deal with you because of, like superficial bullshit. But nonetheless, it's like, I think we're done here, like, so that's hard. And
Mhm.
like, it's really hard. So I really need to figure that out, and get the right formula going to try to capture lightning in a bottle to get this movie done. So that's something I'm going to be doubling down on. I did finish a short film this year that will be out for everyone soon. It's out for patrons now. If you're one of my patrons, which is patreon.com/Placone, for Give What You Can level, you can watch my short film now. It's a film called Loner, and it's actually like a short pilot. Like it's supposed to be a series. So I'm gonna like spread the pilot to the world and hope that somebody wants to buy the series. But yeah, that is finished. So that's gonna be out for the world soon. But my movie is kind of the next project, so I really need to double down on that. And then after I'm done with that, I think I'm going to try to do like a special or something. So that's something I'm going to be doubling down on within the next year. So yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Awesome, awesome. And just let me know, when you're going back, come back on. We'll promote the movie, and because I saw the preview, I like what I saw. I
Well,
love the
thank you,
premise.
thank you.
It's really cool, and so I think that it just shows the collective action of people, in a movie. Like, yeah, like it's some. I'll put it this way: it's some Boots Riley type shit, which is good. If you
Thanks. No,
ever
I
seen,
appreciate that. That's a
if you,
compliment.
yeah, if you ever seen a Boots Riley movie, like Sorry to Bother You is a Boots Riley movie.
Yeah.
That was a great movie. So this is on that same level that I think, especially the premise of the movie. I think that it'll be something. I think something that needs to be made. So
I
I'm
appreciate that,
excited.
man, and I definitely appreciate the Boots Riley, like observation, because as somebody, like a lot of times in this town, people will ask you like, well, if you had to have, like, what's a career you're kind of chasing? Not that you want to be like that person, but you want to kind of have the wheelhouse that they have. And
Yeah.
for me, like Boots Riley is like one of the top answers. I mean, that guy, he creates what he wants to create on his terms.
Yeah.
And like he kind of has carved out his own piece of pie in the industry. And that's awesome. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. It's like that's what I'm trying to do. I just
Hmm.
don't have that to the point where I can just make anything I want to make when I want to make it.
I got you.
I could if money didn't exist, but because it does, because
Yeah.
like this needs to be a sustainable thing, and the people who help me create it need to eat and need to be paid, and
Yeah.
I need to eat and pay my bills.
Yeah.
You know, it's you got to kind of find a sustainable way to do it, and Boots Riley has accomplished that because he's just big enough to be able to do that. And so that's the type of career I would love to have.
That's awesome. Yeah. So this one's going to be a a fun question. What is one food that Ron Placone cannot live without?
Oh, just one. I mean, if I gotta pick one, I gotta go pasta. But I could give you a decent tiramisu would be on that list. I mean, I'm Italian American, so, but
Of course.
I think pasta for me is like I am. I mean, I guess you could say I'm probably addicted to it. You know what I mean? As far as like I will be if I don't have like some type of heavy carb like that. And what I try to do, because it's not the healthiest thing, I try to have like a big carb load at the beginning or lunchtime in the day. And then for dinner, I try to be more like just sort of like veggie protein centric. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I couldn't live without. I mean, pasta is a food group for me. It shouldn't be. It's not good for me, but there are worse vices than pasta.
Yeah.
So and in moderation, it's healthy, but I'm not in moderation. Like I eat a yeah, I eat a lot of it, and I love it, and I have some dishes that I'm pretty proud of. If you're ever visiting me and you want me to cook some stuff for you,
Oh,
I would definitely flex my culinary muscle with some things, and I would hope that it impressed you. You know, um,
oh, oh, Ron, do not threaten me with a good time.
hey man, you're
Don't
you're
do
welcome.
it.
You're welcome anytime, dude. I live in the South Bay. It's really nice here. I'm right by the beach, so
Oh gosh,
anytime, man. You're welcome anytime. I mean, I know you live.
by the
Orlando's a really
beach.
pretty place too, but yeah, but yeah,
Eh.
yeah. I'm walking distance to the beach. I know you don't have that in Orlando.
No, no, dear God, pasta and the beach, Ron.
That's what I got, man. That is totally what I got. I mean, that's I live in San Pedro, which is it's technically the Little Italy of Los Angeles. So it's like, yeah, that's sort of a big. We got pasta and the beach. That's like a big and punk rock music. So my neighborhood, I am in the right neighborhood for me. I always say, as much as I am very frustrated with the United States,
Yeah.
and frustrated is an understatement. If I ever left, I would have a hard time finding a neighborhood that fits me better than San
Mhm.
Pedro, California.
Yeah, you know what? You better let your cat know that they're gonna have to share their bed with me because I'm moving in.
She'll be thrilled. She'll be like a new human to give me attention. I am so stoked. That's like her favorite thing. We
Yeah,
have
your cat.
like we have house sitter. Well, we try to have house sitters. Which again, it's a cool neighborhood. So a lot of times our friends are just like, yeah, we'll come over. Like just give us the Wi-Fi. But yeah, we try to make sure she always has a human there because she's more. We've even like and I know some cats are the total opposite of this, but Lucy's been the cat where it's like, if we bring her to somebody's house and it's a human that she likes and she's familiar with, she will be happier there, even though it's like a foreign environment to her. The human's not foreign. So she will be happier there than she would be at home by herself.
Mm,
She doesn't like being by herself. So yeah,
mm,
it's like we either try to have somebody stay at our place when we go out of town, or we will at times we will bring her to somebody else's place and then pick her up. It's almost like she's almost like a kid, kind of.
well, does she look at us as humans or worshipers? Because I know cats kind of see themselves as gods.
I know, right? Yeah, I think, I mean, she definitely has. It was the funniest thing. Like, so, there's I do a big dinner at my place every Christmas Eve. It's like a tradition I grew up with growing up. So I kind of do my own version of it in California, and I usually just have some like close friends and whoever's around over. And the last time we did it, it's like Lucy was like, she literally sat in a chair and sat in the middle of everybody on the chair. And everyone just got the biggest kick out of it. They're like, dude, she like legit, she's like hosting right now. Like she's legit. Cause yeah, that's just the type of cat she is. She's a very like social, outgoing cat. And yeah, so I
Nice.
like how we got from like food to my cat, but that's just how I roll.
Nice. I appreciate that. Also, what is your favorite cuss word?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go with. Can I pick a? Can I pick one in Italian?
Yes, I would love to
Yeah,
learn one. Please teach me.
I really like merda. Merda.
Merda,
Merda, but you would say like merda,
merda.
merda, and that means shit. Um, but I just love. I love like I've totally. Um, my cousin Carmen and I, when he first came to the United States, he I was the only one who kind of spoke Italian in my family. Um, I guess I still am, but like, so sometimes we would just say grossly inappropriate things to each other, and no one else knew what we were saying.
I love
And
it.
it's like, like, so we would say like we would just be like "Ciccione de merda," which means like basically like you like you big piece of shit, basically. And we would just say that to each other, and it would be like people would think and like it was just like um but when I was first in Italy, I saw this sign and it said Americani di merda, which means like a America of shit. And I just thought that was so, I took a picture of it, like I thought it was just so badass that like, other countries are shitting on us for what we're doing in Iraq and we deserve it. So like I love to be like, hey merda, like when I like my family is gonna ask me, my Italian family, they're gonna be like, oh, so how are things in America? And I'll be like, Americani di merda, Americana e merda, Biden e merda, like so that's my favorite curse word. I like saying shit in Italian.
Ooh,
That's my favorite. If I had to just pick one, I like a lot of them. I don't think I've ever met. Well, I take that back. I've met a few curse words I haven't liked, but most of them I'm fond of.
nice. Okay, all right. And this is my final question. This is going to be a deep one. Are you ready, Ron?
I'm ready.
All right. So you've lived a long life, and you're reflecting on that life you lived. What is the one thought you want people to remember about you before you die?
Wow, man, that's an amazing question. Um, I'm gonna paraphrase something that I think Harvey Picard said first. Life
Hmm.
is about love, gigs, and being creative. Um, I hope that is what people take away from me. I hope they're just like, Ron was a big fan of love. He was a big fan of being creative, and that was kind of what life was all about to him. And gigs, you can kind of like interpret in different ways. I mean, that can mean like travel or just being intellectually curious. In my case, sometimes it's in the literal sense, like doing stand up and stuff like that. So, I hope at the end of the day, that's what people take away from me.
That was beautiful,
Aw, thank you.
man. Yeah, man. And I did between that beautiful thought and then the whole thing about pasta. I would love to talk more about that with you over a plate of carbonara because I
Oh, is
really
that
want to. I want to try that so bad.
you never had it?
No,
Hey, dude, they
no.
have it in Orlando. Go try it.
I'm broke in Orlando.
Oh, all right. All right. Well,
But
I'll send you a recipe if you want. Carbonara is not my specialty, but my
mhm,
cousin who lives in Bologna, that's his signature. He makes a mean carbonara.
really,
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely I could make one for you, but it's not if you wanted me to make like some of my flexes for you. I make a very good peas and prosciutto, which I can make that, and I can do a vegan version of it if you are non-dairy. I can do a pescatarian version of it, or just regular, whatever people's dietary needs are, I can accommodate. When I do my thing on Christmas Eve, it kind of stereotypical Los Angeles fashion. There are some people who are gluten-free. There are some vegans, and I accommodate everybody. Like there's always, and it's marked, and I don't mind adjusting my dishes to suit everybody. But yeah, but that is like my kind of signature dish, and it's like a 3 cheese sauce
Ooh.
with like herbs and then peas, and then the protein can be either just regular prosciutto or like whatever you want. Like I can do smoked salmon with it if you're a fish person, or I can do a vegan version of it if you don't eat, any animal product. And and of course I can use non-dairy cheeses too if you're a vegan or whatever. And I do it with linguine. And yeah, that's kind of like my signature. And then the other signature I have is it's a little bit of a fusion dish, but I've been working on it for many, many years. I'm a little proud of my basil fried rice, which is it's kind of like a Thai Italian fusion the way I make it. And you can do it with seafood, which I've definitely done, especially like living in the harbor like I do. I've done it with like local scallops and shit. Or I can just do it straight up. I could do it with soy or aminos. But yeah, that's like those are two of like my big signatures, so I'm kind
I'm
of,
so glad.
I don't know. If you didn't like them, it would hurt. I'd be like, oh man, because yeah, and they are kind of, so. I've been doing the Christmas Eve meal, which is technically it's like an Italian Catholic thing.
Yeah.
I don't practice any religion, but I just grew up with the meal, and I just always loved it. So I do my own version of it in California and introduce like my friends to it and stuff. Um, but I guess like my basil fried rice has gotten a little bit of a reputation because some people commonly refer to that gathering as Ron's rice party, because that's like usually the thing we run out of first, because like people did like it. So yeah. Anyway, if you're ever in SoCal on Christmas Eve.
Ron, I am so glad I brought you here, especially now that we're talking about food, because I haven't eaten today.
Yeah, I'm actually due for a little lunch myself. It's a little earlier here in California, so yeah, I'm primed for a little bit of lunch, and yeah, so I feel you,
Man. Oh, we've got to get into the kitchen together, dude. We've got to.
dude. Anytime, man. And yeah,
Oh,
I know if you're
man.
ever traveling out to SoCal, look me up, and yeah, you're welcome to crash here anytime you want. We yeah, I got a nice little. I mean, San Pedro is kind of away from a lot of the thick of things, which can kind of be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what you're looking for. But it's like, it's a cool pad to just sort of spend your time in, because it's like, you got the beach, you got good places to eat, you got a good bar scene, and that's all in walking distance here. So, I don't know.
Nice.
I feel like I'm doing a commercial, but it's like, it's funny. My parents are like so not Southern California people. Like they're like just the most anti Southern California people. Like it's just not their thing. But
Wow.
they really love San Pedro now, because it's like whenever they come visit, we don't really leave because we don't have to, because they don't want to go to Hollywood. They don't want to, they like a nice beach because you can't get that in Pittsburgh. And they like a good meal, which we don't have to leave the neighborhood to get. So, they kind of like, and they stayed at like this super hippie bohemian-esque Airbnb where like these people have like sort of like a boarding house type situation, and then they have this side room that they use for Airbnb guests, and they're always like, here's some fresh mango that we got from a local blah blah blah, here's some blue ahi that one of the guys who lives there is a fisherman that he caught. So like my parents are all like, they went from being these like total anti Southern California people to being like, we're kind of part of San Pedro now. I mean, we don't live here. Our son does, but we're kind of part of it. We go to this Airbnb and that's our jam. My dad wears this like San Pedro shirt and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, we're originally from Pennsylvania, but we like to go to San Pedro now.
Yeah, it's
We
kind of
eat
funny.
like the fish with the mahi with the
Yeah,
mango salsa. So
yeah.
I say we're transplants, man.
Yeah. Like they visit once or twice a year. They're like, yeah, we're kind of part of it. We're part of, and they're kind of right. I mean, it's not like it's not a super touristy part of LA. Like it's not like
Yeah,
a tourist going to LA isn't going to be like, I got to go to San Pedro. They're going to be like, I got to go to Santa Monica or Malibu or whatever. And
yeah.
all those places are very pretty too. But we kind of got our own little thing going on here in the South Bay. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, I had a friend I was visiting out there. He lived in Westminster, um, and so I had visited him out there. And man, all I gotta say is the donut shops, dude. It's
oh
the
yeah,
donut shops.
yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing. And then like burgers are like a really big deal in LA. Like burgers, tacos, and donuts. Those are like the big like there's actually this place in Highland Park. It's a vegan donut shop. Um
Oh,
but they're vegan they're vegans. The vegans I'm
oh,
sure are very delicious, but the donuts also delicious.
mm.
Yeah, and it's also like a punk rock. It has like a punk rock theme about it. Like they have this chocolate donut called Fudge Gazi, which is like a play on the band Fugazi. And like all their donuts are like named after these different like bands or nods to these different bands, and they are so unbelievably good. Like they're just like some of the greatest donuts. Period.
Oh,
Because a lot of like a lot of the stuff we put in some of our baked goods is just sort of stuff that just makes it heavy and doesn't really enhance the flavor. So like a lot of vegan baked goods are actually quite good because they just don't have any of those heavier things. I mean, sometimes like a non-dairy milk or a non-dairy butter can be add a little bit of a difficulty, but like their donuts are just amazing.
yeah. I'm gonna make my way out there.
Anytime, man.
Look up. Let me look up some flights. You know,
Those probably
get
aren't going to
out
be
there.
too pretty at the moment, but yeah,
Yeah,
it'll eventually all go down again. I hope. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully, but I know that airlines tend to be pretty monopolized too, as we were talking about that earlier. So
Yeah, that's a whole other. We could go on and on about that for hours too, man. That's
yeah,
a whole
yeah.
other thing.
Yeah, but stomach not permitting, unfortunately, it's because I gotta eat. But Ron, thank you so much for joining me, dude.
Thanks for
I really
having me.
appreciate you. And also to anybody who's watching, in the description is Ron's website, ronplacone.com, as well as the link to Antitrust Summer, Ron Placone's Twitter, as well as his YouTube channel in the description as well. Any other places that they can find you, Ron, that you would like to
I think
let
that
people know?
Yeah, I think that covers it, man. I mean, I'm Ron Placone on all the socials. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, even though I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm on Twitter. Twitter's my most active, so that's the best place. If you only do one, that's the best place to follow me is Twitter at Ron Placone. I will be announcing some 2023 tour dates soon. Some of my
Ooh,
shows next year are going to include screenings of my short film Loner.
nice.
Like some of my shows are going to be at like these small indie theaters, so we're going to do a stand-up show and a screening of the film because the film's only 12 minutes long, so it's like not that hard to have a screening of it, and to show. It's not going to be like too long of an event, so be on the lookout for that. That's coming to some cities. I'm going to be coming to the UK in 23, and I'm likely going to be doing Iceland because I was supposed to do Iceland this past year, but I got sick. I got COVID right before I was supposed to leave. It was really, really
Oh,
shitty timing. But so I had to postpone Iceland. So I'll be doing Iceland along with the UK to make up for it, this coming year in 23. So be on the lookout for tour dates soon. And yeah, man, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
thanks so much, Ron Placone. Everybody, thank you so much for joining.
Peace.
I'll I'll see you on the interwebs.
Absolutely, man.
All right, bye. Okay, so that was great. Always love talking to my buddy Ron. Um, Brilliant guy. Very, very a friend's friend. Very uh, thoughtful individual that I love to have on and talk to. And so I just want to thank all of you guys for joining. I'm going to be going to the chat just for 1 second, just to say my hellos to everybody. And Aspen Fallen was one of the first people. The Aspen Fallen says, "Yay, yay to you, Aspen Fallen. Welch is great. Is up on here. So good to see you." Death Leopards saying, "Yay, Jay and Ron." Yep, that's right, baby. All right. Terry Connolly is also in the chat saying, "Hello, fam. Hello, Terry. So good to see you." Optimism of the will saying, "JB always lifts my soul." Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you. Man, I love this flannel shirt. It's so comfy and it looks good on me, doesn't it? Mm-mm. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Where Pilgrim is also in the chat saying, "Hey, everybody. Hey, Where Pilgrim. So good to see you." Paul Smith says, "Ron is a true, honest actor and left podcast." Oh, I'm sure Ron appreciates that as well. Chris Hayes is a beep muncher. Ron lives rent free in David Dole's head. uh, that's funny. All right. Let me see. Log 66 says Ron is the bomb. He is. All right. All right. Who else is in the chat that way they can say hello to? Aberdeen71 says, "Dear God, what the hell?" Ron, is it true you and Gavin from Vanguard are furry enthusiasts together? I don't know about that. I'm going to move on. I have respect for people who are of any persuasion, that's, consensual and adults. I, have respect for anybody and everybody. So, let me see. Lee Limon says Lex Luthor really is working towards world domination. You know what? Let me say something. The fact that Lex Luthor, I mean, Jeff Bezos, can shame a woman, a black woman, on Twitter for expressing her disdain for a colonizer like Queen Elizabeth II without violating Twitter's terms of service, and then gets her tweet taken down because of it. That's control. Like, I almost never see a tweet from Jeff Bezos. And then he sees that, he's like, "Oh no, you can't go against, my fellow oligarch like that." Who the hell are you? See, this is why we need to break up big tech. Because these people have way too much power. Too much power. Way too much. To the point where I'm just like, dude, shut up, you supervillain. Sit down, Jeff. Sit down. You shouldn't have that much money, period. You stole most of it. Golly, I'm telling you. I am sick and tired of these oligarchs, man. All right. Yipper99. Good to see you, Yipper says. "Hello, everyone." Hello, Yipper. So good to see you also in the chat. All right. Who else do we have? Do we have anybody new? Wait. Holly Horn. So good to see you in the chat too. CBC is in the chat. Pancake. All right. Good to see you. Jade Star says 3 hearts. Thank you so much. It is so good to see you too. All right. Absolutely, Jade Star. Fuck censorship. Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why we need to break up big tech as well as many of these other big monopolies or oligopolies, or whatever you want to call them. But they need to be broken up. And I also am a fan of workers actually owning them too. Can you imagine? Hang on. And I want, okay, if you're watching this on the rewatch, or if you're in the chat, what companies would you love to see owned by workers? Like completely worker owned. I want to see Amazon worker owned. I also want to see Apple worker owned. I would also like to see Microsoft worker owned. I would love Microsoft being worker owned, and then with Microsoft especially, everything that they have is now open source, and their products are modular. Oh, the capitalists will be coming after me for that one. They'd be like, no, you can't make profit. So I guess we're going to have to nationalize it so that everybody has access to it, so that people can actually communicate and do the things that they need to, because we live in a society where you don't have, you have to use the internet in order to be able to survive now. So, okay. That's, say, who else? Candles Boat says all of them. All of them. Every single, all y'all. Worker owned. Jade Star says Walmart. Walmart will be great to be completely worker owned. I do think that it needs to be broken up, but then out of that breaking it up, all those companies that would come out of it be worker owned. You know what I mean? Because I think that would be great. Holly Horn says Tesla. I would love to see Tesla worker owned, but I also Tesla's kind of different because I personally would love to see Tesla worker owned, but I would also like to see Tesla as a niche market, especially for people who live in rural areas. If you can expand the electric grid and then have a lot, various power stations in rural areas, especially for people who need to use them, and electric powered trucks in rural areas, because I would love to expand the mass public transit within this country, so that it kind of it makes the need for electric vehicles or any type of personal vehicle obsolete, because because we need to center our economic system around people instead of profit, meaning that as long as people have a means to travel, now if they need to travel and and take things with them, then yeah, we can have kind of like a one size fits all kind of publicly owned thing where um you have an app, and you have a request for a particular vehicle to use, or something like that. I don't know. uh there's probably somebody can probably poke holes in my logic with this, but I'd rather it be somebody who's anti-capitalist to do it. But I mean, there's so many people who just don't have adequate transportation, but then you can still get transported through a mass public transit. And I also think that we should have mass public transit that's free at the point of service. I mean, why should we even have to pay a fare just to get on the vehicle? like a high speed rail or a trolley or something. I think that would be great. Um, Let me see. Uh, Candles vote. There should be no company that's not employee owned. Absolutely. I mean, the only one that technically is still employee owned, but if the person owns their own company and they're working by themselves, technically it is employee owned. But at the same time, there's they don't have employees. Like if you're self employed, like technically I am. There's nobody working for me, so technically I am the owner and the employee. So I guess in that way, but yeah, I agree. Yipper says Amazon all sports banks. Yeah, so I think sports teams should be. Yeah, I think sports teams should be worker owned as well. Disney. Oh yes, I would. Oh my god, do you know the quality of entertainment that could come out if it was worker owned, and we could start taking more risks for the stories that could be told instead of doing all these remakes? I'm just saying, like, don't get me wrong. Some remakes, I'm just like, okay, cool. I would like to see that because you want to see it more updated, or see it, in real life. You kind of want to see that, but at the same time, it's like I would like to see more news stories that come out, something that really just like catches our eye, you know, um, catches our mind's attention. I would love to see that, and so just imagine what they could do if it was more community or worker owned and they weren't bound by the rules of profit making, you know what I mean? And giving the money to their shareholders. Optimism of the will says Disney should just be wiped from the face of the earth. I don't know, Mickey Mouse might not like that. Um yes, I would love to see YouTube worker owned. YouTube being worker owned would be great as well. The department is this the Department of Defense? Technically, that's a government entity, or I don't know. Cars are coffins on wheels. Well, I mean, the government is supposed to be community owned by the community of the whole of all people. So I would just take all the money out of it. But yeah, Kansas City has free train. What? For real? That sounds good. That's pretty nice. I like that. Green Bay Packers being employee owned. Yeah. So, oh wait, the Packers have no owners. That's Oh wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. You see, Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hershey is coming out in October. Any chance we can get you to read some of that to us? Just an idea. Never heard of her before, but that sounds interesting. That's possible. Yipper says McDonald's. Why should international McDonald's have better food? Yeah, I think McDonald's. I think McDonald's should be worker owned. Um, there's absolutely no reason why anybody who works for McDonald's should be making poverty wages. Especially when it has as much money as it does. All that money can be, distributed. The profit that they make could be distributed to the workers because they're the ones who create the wealth. So yeah, I completely agree. So, But yeah, this was a great conversation. And any other companies, if you guys want to rewatch, please put that in the comments below. Um, yeah, I will be getting to my reading of Dirty Truths by Michael Parenti and Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. I'll be getting to those. I'm going to try to get to those a little bit earlier this week so that I can have them already uploaded, because I have a baby shower to go to this weekend. And so I'm going to be a little bit busy. But yeah. And then, wait, who do I have on coming on next week? JB, get it together. Come on, homeboy. I gotta look at my calendar really quick because I want to make sure that I'm accurate on who I have. Who you got on JB next week? Next week. Next week. Who you got on JB next week? Next week. It's gonna be Eddie Liger from Midwestern Marks next Tuesday. Oh yeah. So that's who's going to be on next week on Tuesday, the 20th. I'm going to have on Eddie Lager Smith from Midwestern Marks. It's going to be great. We're going to have a good old time. I can't wait for you guys to join that conversation. I'm going to be probing his brain to get all of that revolutionary theory out of his head so that I can put it into my brain so that I can become smarter. Yes. Yeah. Also, thanks to everybody who is a contributor and a patron on Patreon and Coffee. And thank you to anybody that has been sending me anything outside of Patreon and Coffee. Yeah, your boys and not in the best place right now. But I appreciate anything and everything that people have been helping me out with. And did I make sure I check Rockfin? Yes. Oh, hello. Happy Tuesday, Rory O'Neill on Rockfin. So good to see you too. I want to make sure that I catch my Rockfin peeps because I don't want to leave you guys out because you guys are just as important. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hang on. Let me see. Rory O'Neill, so good to see you. All right. And let me see. Oh, hey! Reefer After Dark is in the chat. So good. Love to you anyway, JP. Keep on. Thank you so much, Reefer. So good to see you. And did you comment earlier? I didn't see. I'm trying to make sure. Did I miss you at all? I'm going through this. Man, this thing is long. But yeah, it's always good to see you, bro. Also, oh, you just reminded me. Also, make sure you guys have subscribed to Indie Left News. Independent media is being, consolidated in one newsletter, and then they give it to you so that you can basically have your daily dose. So it's almost like Indie Left is kind of like that that pillbox that has like the Sunday through Saturday, and then you have your select amount of pills that you need to take. Well, okay, those of us who have chronic illnesses and old people pretty much are the only ones that know about it. But anyways, that pillbox that you have, and then you have all your pills set for the week, and then you have different ones. Well, that's basically what Indie Left is. They're the pillbox that gives you your prescriptions for each day. So make sure to subscribe to Independent Left Media as well. Did I just refer to Indie Left as drugs? Drugs that make you feel good? Sorry. Oh, yes. And you're right, Jade. Indie is awesome. Yep. Yep. Definitely. Make sure to subscribe to them as well. But yes, so continue to water your plants, water yourselves. Self-care is important, so take care of yourselves. Lotion, and when you go out into the sun, make sure to put on some sunscreen, all right? You know, me and Ron talked about that today, okay? Make sure you do that. Including you people who are melanin abundant like me. Just because we melanin abundant don't mean that we can't get skin cancer. So make sure you protect yourselves too. All right? JB's watching you. All right? Smoke them if you got them. Drink them if you got them. If you don't got them, then laugh. Enjoy life because joy is revolutionary. Bring that forehead over here. You know what's coming. Mwah! Forehead kisses. I love you. You love me. We're a great big family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too?